the journey of unity, the journey of devotion, the journey of works, the journey of harmony. These are the four paths described by Peter Tufts Richardson in his book, For Spiritualities. The object of worship may vary, yet within all religions there are four spiritual paths. And these pathways are based on the human personality rather than on divine doctrine. Richardson's thesis is based on Jungian psychology and the Myers-Briggs personality profile. Now, this is a test that measures people along four continuums. The first continuum is being extroversion and introversion. This describes about how people view the world. The extrovert tends to look outside the self, and the introvert tends to look inward. This continuum is about where one looks for truth. The next continuum is between sensing and intuition. It's not about where one looks, but about how one looks. A sensing person will notice the details. An intuitive person will look at the big picture. George Seurat, in his famous painting, Saturday in the Park, he had a detailed style called pointillism. The sensing person will see this painting and get up close and marvel at all the little points and how they combine to make colors and shapes. The intuitive person will step back and say, "My, those people look awful stiff and overdressed to be enjoying themselves in the park." And then in another wing of the museum, Matisse has a single-colored silhouette of a person. The intuitive will say, "Look, she's dancing." And the sensing person will say, "How do you know it's a she? There's no hair, there's no makeup. The artist didn't even draw a face. How do you know she's dancing? There's no band, there's not even a dance floor. The artist forgot to draw the background. That's just a crude blue cutout floating in empty space." For those of you who do not spend your weekends at the museum, here's a football analogy. The play-by-play guy is intuitive. The quarterback drops back, throws complete, and he's down at the 30-yard line. Then the replay comes on, and the sensing analyst speaks. "You can see here that the quarterback steps up into the pocket. The halfback helps by picking up the safety blitz. The receiver runs to the center where the safety usually is. The quarterback freezes the cornerback with a pump fake to the outside, so he cannot get to the receiver in time. But he did make a good tackle, saving 6 points." The third continuum is the judging functions. What evidence does one use in making decisions? The thinking person makes decisions based on objective, measurable facts. The feeling person makes decisions based on subjective emotions. And I hear them debate every canvas season. The thinking person says, "We have 300 members, a $300,000 budget, therefore each member should give $1,000. I've done the math, it's quite simple." Then the feeling person speaks up and says, "But we do not want to exclude anybody who has less money. Surely those who are able to give will find it in their hearts to give a little bit more to make this a more inclusive fellowship." Which is why each year we send out a statistical chart with suggestive giving and a person who says, "Do the best for the fellowship you love." The fourth continuum is not about how people make decisions, it's about whether they make decisions. Judging people are very decisive. Perceiving people are waiting for more information. The danger of each is found in this Chinese proverb: a plan without action is just a dream. Action without a plan is a nightmare. Perceiving people run the risk of over-analysis and under-accomplishment. They just think about it. Judging people run the risk of acting impulsively. They just do it, even if it's not a good idea. Overly judging people save time by prejudging. Prejudice. They can have the same answer no matter what the question is. On the other hand, which happens to be the favorite phrase of perceivers, one can be so open-minded that one's brain falls out of one's ears. When looking at spirituality, Richardson focuses on the middle two functions: sensing to intuition and thinking to feeling. He defines the four spiritualities as following. The journey of unity consists of intuitive thinkers. The journey of devotion consists of sensing feelers. The journey of works consists of sensing thinkers. And the journey of harmony, which consists of intuitive feelers. The intuitive thinker is the person who sees the big picture and thinks logically, seeks what unifies the religions. These are the people of the one big theory. Einstein was an intuitive thinker. He came up with relativity almost instantly and then spent 20 years trying to do the math to show that it was true. Freud had a psychoanalysis, and Buddha had the idea of non-attachment. Horace Mann, a Unitarian who advocated the first public schools in America, did so out of a unified sense of science and religion. He wrote, "Get knowledge then, my young friends. Get wisdom with all thy gettings. Get understanding. Get science, which is nothing but understanding of God's laws, as a religious duty. Before you can obey, you must know. Knowledge then is essential for rational piety." Rational piety. The phrase itself sounds like an oxymoron to most of us. The scientist has a devotion to what can be measured. Some scientists argue if it can't be measured, it doesn't exist. On the other hand, the Buddhists say there is no observer and observed. All that perceived dualism is just illusion. And so, although these two worldviews are opposite in their content, they share that same temperament of the grand unifying theory. In fact, they share the same word, enlightenment. The 18th century, with its scientific deism, is called the Age of Enlightenment. And enlightenment for Buddhists is when one awakens from the world of illusion. The second journey is the journey of devotion. This is the journey of sensing, feeling people. Being helpful is the hallmark of this type. They tend to try to please authority. They give with their whole heart. These are the people who prepare the altar in traditional religions. They have a loving attention to detail. The pilgrimage is part of this spirituality. To go to Mecca, Jerusalem, or Rome, to walk where the great ones walked. Their sensing function leads them to help in tangible ways. They seek to make themselves and others feel good. They bring food to the sick. They tend to be devoted to God in human form, whether it is a Hindu avatar, to Jesus, or to Mary. These are the people more likely to have a statue to make these figures more real. Richardson writes, "Service to others is service to God in many traditions." He quotes Mother Teresa, "Love cannot remain by itself. It has no meaning. Love has to be put into action, and that action is service. Whatever form we are, abled or disabled, rich or poor, it is not how much we do, but how much love we put in the doing. A lifelong sharing of love with others." Richardson cites Muhammad and St. Francis as archetypes of this spirituality, being moved by devotion, meditation, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. This type of devotion I haven't observed very much among UUs. In our service of living tradition, there's the ritual of lighting candles. And our kitchen committee does a fine job, but I doubt that before they clean the kitchen, they light a candle to Clara Barton, honoring her service with the Sanitary Commission. A person who was taking a class here, thinking of joining, had a friend who asked, "Have them tell you, what do you use worship? What are we devoted to?" Now, I know some of you are thinking justice, freedom, and reason. You people are intuitive feelers, and I'll talk about you later. The sensing feelers have objects of devotion, whether it is the soup they lovingly prepare for the poor or candles with the Virgin of Guadalupe on it. We do not have that same devotion to our chalice. We do not have hymns that move our spirits. We do not have a scripture that we know by heart. The sensing feeling type is about 38% of the population at large. They may visit our service and are likely to walk away feeling empty. How does our congregation serve this type of person? Is there such a thing as a devotee to Unitarian Universalism? In any church, the sensing feeling people are the people who get things done. They are the worker bees. Our denomination's strength is with its leaders and great ideas. But are we attracting devoted followers with a deep sense of devotion? Now, a possible manifestation of the sensing feeling person in this congregation is in the area of hospitality. I have seen parties with incredible attention to detail and committee meetings with special treats. Perhaps radical welcoming could be our practice of devotion. The third style Richardson describes as the journey of works. These are the sensing thinkers. Unlike the intuitive thinkers, they do not sense a oneness of all things. They see chaos that needs to be ordered. They create a system of laws and rules, an imposed order of do this and don't do that. Unlike the sensing feelers who follow the law to a means of higher purpose, the sensing thinker follows the law for its own sake. The Beatitudes in the book of Matthew appeal to the sensing feeler. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. If you do this, you'll be blessed. The sensing thinker likes the 10 Commandments. Honor your mother and father. Period. Not honor your mother and father so you inherit their property. The sensing thinker has a sense of duty, whereas sensing feelers have devotion. Richardson lists Moses and Confucius as mentors for this way. They are the great lawgivers. And Gandhi said, work is worship. He went down to the sea and made salt. He spun cloth. He did these tangible acts, practical works. And the sensing, thinking people do that institutional work in the background. They actually ask to be on the bylaws committee. They seek the order in the universe for themselves and for others. I think it would be difficult for an ST to be agnostic. They are either theists following the commandments or atheists with an ethical principles. They do not embrace the mystery. They figure out what's right and then do it. The fourth type Richardson describes is the intuitive feeler on the journey of harmony. These are the people who embrace the mystery. While intuitive feelers account for only 12% of the population, they make up about 44% of the clergy. Guilty as charged. Seeking to bring harmony and inspiration, idealism is the hallmark of this type. They approach this type of analysis that Richardson does with hope and wonder, saying, it takes all kinds to make this world. As different as we all are, we are connected by some transcendent reality. Unlike the intuitive thinker, we do not try to build some unifying theory. We simply believe that it is out there for everybody to grasp in some mystical way, as if wishing for it will make it happen. In the words of Thoreau, if you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put foundations under them. I know I'm not alone as an intuitive feeler in this congregation. I see your letters to the editor, and they reveal your ideals. We come to this fellowship because it's a place to gather and dream about the world that could be if everybody's worth and dignity were respected, if everyone felt a part of the interconnected web of all existence. Unlike the sensing feeler, intuitive feelers do not submerge themselves in the task of individual acts of charity. They're more likely to seek policy change Instead of feeding the poor, intuitive feelers will advocate for the elimination of poverty. Both are needed, and neither should think themselves more righteous than others. Because the intuitive feeler will advocate for the elimination of poverty, but the sensing thinker person will actually sit down and write the policy out. Intuitive feelers are not really going to get around to the detailed work of putting the foundations under the castles in the sky. It's just not our strength. The intuitive thinker will be an architect and draw up the plans. The sensing thinker will be the engineer and actually build the plans according to the laws of physics, which architects sometimes ignore. And the sensitive feeler will be the one devoted to actually do the work and build. Each of us should look at ourselves and ask, what type of spirituality am I most comfortable with? And how do I react to people with a different style? Sometimes I get along with people of different faiths. Might we have similar styles underlying our different beliefs? Am I a mixture of styles? How can I access a different way of doing things when I need to? How can I honor who I am? How can I honor who you are? And how can we become more whole? After the service, about noon in the Thoreau room, we'll be taking, those who want to can take a little test to find out their type. But I think probably enough of you have attended enough workshops, and probably enough of you have a sense of who you are to talk about how your personality affects your spirituality. I open the floor to you.
Well, I'm always willing to talk on any topic. We say that Forsyth County used these Briggs-Myers tests for the department heads for several years. And it was determined that ENTJ was what most department heads should be, but one of my good friends scored on the opposite side of every one. He was one of the best department heads. So that shows you that. I served on a jury not long ago. I was the foreman just a few weeks ago. And I wish I'd given everybody this test so I'd know better how to handle it. The final vote came down to all 11 were on the other side for me. And they said, now, how long are you going to maintain your position? I said, I'm not going to change this all day. They said, it's 5 minutes to lunchtime. I said, I'm changing my position. I'll just tell one other fast story. You mentioned charging everybody $1,000 for 300 members in the church. That's coming up. We're with some friends who go to a large Moravian church in Old Salem. And I mentioned that we have members in our church that donate as much as $5,000 a year. My friend who's on the finance committee there for many years said, we have several members who give $50,000 a year to our Moravian church. So I said, could I get the names of those people? Good luck, Brad.
Well, your question about is there a devotee to Unitarian Universalism? See, I've described myself as an evangelical UU. And there's reasoning behind that, because in the classic form, if you take out all the fanaticism, evangelical means the good news. It means the good word. I'm willing to tell people there is good news. There is a church where
devotion, work, and harmony. What was the first one? Thinking?
Unity.
What?
Unity. So that'd be the sensing, thinking person, the grand theory.
Okay. The first one, I translated this into branches of yoga. The first one is Jnana Yoga, yoga of wisdom. Second one, devotion, is Bhakti Yoga. The third one, work, is Karma Yoga. And the fourth one, harmony, is Raja Yoga.
Now that's a wealth of information, because that's exactly how Richardson divides it up in his book.
Charlie, I can give an illustration from my own experience with crisis control ministry since retiring. I served a term on the board of directors and declined the opportunity to serve a second term because serving on the board at crisis control was too much like church. But I really thrive on being an interviewer and having the one-to-one contact with the clients. And so I think that's a distinction I see in myself that is other people can find other distinctions.
Just wanted to share kind of a religious experience that I had last week. As a friend of a Pakistani, I felt it my Unitarian responsibility to call him, since he's the only Pakistani I know, and apologize for the collateral damage in his country. Yes. And I was very surprised by the response that I got. He said, as the son of a 3-star general in the Pakistani army, he said, do not think for 1 minute that Pakistan was not in concert with the United States. He said the collateral damage is on both sides, and it was a calculated collateral damage inasmuch as Pakistan and the United States understood that blame would be put on the United States because they don't live there. They don't live there. He said, so open your eyes a little wider. It was a kind of a strange thing, so it put a new twist on my whole thought.
Well, I know for myself that I keep looking at, monster.com and the classifieds for my perfect job title, which is Visionary Wanted. Anybody knows?
Quite recently, I borrowed a book from our library here, by the way, a great book called Descartes' Error, which is, you have to be a neurologist to understand it, because I'm not, but looking inside the human brain, we make our decisions from our emotions. Virtually everybody does this, and there is anybody who says they're a cerebral thinker doesn't really understand that they really are weighing everything against their little emotion balance in their brain.
Yeah, the limbic system still runs prior, but rational and rationalization are which comes first?
I want to ask one question. You were talking about the worker bee person, the devotee who would come here and maybe walk away because they go away empty. I think we ought to have a church-wide dialogue for a few weeks on how do we feel that person's, how do we treat them? Because I never feel empty when I leave here. I mean, the interactions with the people and the sermons always do something for me. But I would hate to think that someone, we didn't have, a little icon or something.
Yeah. How do we build an icon without sending everybody else in the room out?
I did have a friend come here once for a music thing, and he left and he said, I really, really enjoyed that. It did not feel like church though. And he said, I might come back sometime just because I enjoyed it so much, but I need to have church. And so he was just saying, there was nothing negative except it didn't feel like particular need.
Yeah, didn't feel like church. Well, we can just, people are not like,
When you asked, what do people worship, the first thing that came to my mind here is each other. That's what I thought, instead of God.
that's interesting. Thanks. let us continue our thoughts, only now in song, about different ways of looking at things with the hymn number 23, Bring Many Names.